Hello friends, Nick here, and welcome back to the channel. This is MSFS Flight Plans, one of the very few places on the internet where you can actually get smarter with each visit. Well, most of the time you get smarter. Maybe half the time. Today we're going to take a helicopter tour of the beautiful and historic city of Turin, Italy, and we'll be doing it in the B-206 by FlyInside, a developer of whom I'm rather fond when it comes to helicopters. And we are wearing the Rotor Rick livery as a token of appreciation for our man Rotor Rick, who is not only a very valuable asset to the sim community as a developer, but also a member of our MSFS Flight Plans community. So thank you very much, Rick, for everything you do, because you do it really well. And it just so happens that Turin, I just found out from another one of our members, is going to be a part of the Tour de France this year. It's going to be the third leg. So be sure to watch the July 1st leg of that race if you want to see some more spectacular views of this region, probably also from a helicopter or from a guy riding backwards on a motorcycle. But unfortunately, that's going to be pretty flat. They're not going to be up in the mountains over here, so the chances of seeing a really high-speed wreck are pretty low, if that's the reason why you're watching it. And you know that's why you're watching it. So let's go ahead and get in and fire this baby up, and then we'll take a quick peek on our Google map to see the route we're going to be heading out to. All we need to do is start up the battery. And then I have to do a little bit of sim pit twister here because I have to adjust the throttle while I'm holding down the starter, so I'm reaching across my chest here to do that. A couple things I'll be watching. Here's our N1 gauge here. When it gets to 15, we introduce the throttle, so we're just about there right now. And you'll hear it start up. There it goes. And then it's going to kind of jump up to this region right here, and then we can go ahead and finish putting more throttle in. And then we have to watch our torque, because as we give it more throttle, we need to try to keep that under 40. All the rest of the stuff is in its usual spots. Let's go ahead and check our baro. This is not the live weather. I took a few flights last night. One of them was a failed recording because I got caught in a vortex ring and crashed when I was trying to land, so that was not cool. And so I turned the, today though it's cloudy for the live weather, a little bit more cloudy than this, and I didn't want it to obscure anything, so I put it on the sparse cloud setting. And I turned the wind down a little bit. We do have two add-ons installed. Both of them are freeware, so you can get those at flightsim.to. I'll include those in the video description, along with the link to this exact flight plan if you want to take it as we are. And the two add-ons are for landmarks in Turin, and I think they came out before they did the Italy World updates. So as you're going to see, Turin looks phenomenal. It's all photogrammetry. So I think some of the stuff on the outskirts, I know for sure the add-on packs improved greatly. And it didn't seem to mess with anything downtown. There's only going to be one spot where we're going to get a little bit of a double up on an add-on, but it's just that one spot. So I would go ahead and throw both of those in there. It doesn't seem to conflict with anything else. And it does add a lot to the stuff on the fringes. All right, just slowly adding the fuel in now. And then once that's ramped up... Oh, I went over 40 on our torque. Okay, we're good to go there. All right, let's take a look at the Google map real quick, just so you know where we're going. So you recognize that. That's Europe. Portugal, Spain, France, Italy, Switzerland up here, and Turin is tucked kind of down in the armpit of the Alps over here. So we'll zoom way in. We're going to be taking off from a little grass strip somewhere up in this vicinity up here. We got lots of castles to see on this tour, along with lots of other cool landmarks. We'll come down along this way, catch up to the Po River, which runs from, well, it kind of runs west to east, but it runs up from the south here and then starts heading out this way. So we'll come down to the Po River down by Moncalieri and then cruise up this way. All the historical stuff is kind of tucked between this gray thing right here, which is a big railway line, and then the river. So we'll look at all that stuff out of the right side of the helicopter, come up around this way, check out the place where they keep the Shroud, and then come up over here, hit a couple more castles, and come across some mountains, and then come back down this way, and we're going to land on top of a building at a helipad, which is an in-sim POI that will already be in there, so you don't need an add-on for that. And the sim says this flight will be under 30 minutes in the air. We'll just see about that, because we're not going to be blazing through this. All right, so I think everything's good to go. All we need to do is turn on our generator. And there we go. And if you didn't hear me say it before, one of the other, among many things that I like about the FlyInside helicopters is you can really adjust and dial in the level of assistance. And as you guys know, I'm trying to get better about flying these things, so I have turned the assistance down a little bit more for this one once again. So we'll see how we do, particularly on the landings. Not so tough getting up in the air and flying around, but the landings are a little bit tricky, so we'll see how that goes. I turned the wind down a little bit too, so that'll help. All right, we just need to get up about, we're going to cruise at about 2,000 feet for this trip. And as we're closer to the ground, of course, everything's going to look a little bit jacked up. But once we get up to our cruise altitude, everything will be just great. And it's going to look fantastic. As you're going to see, lots and lots of factories out here. Industry and history are the big things in Turin. So unlike our last flight, there is going to be no shortage of things to see and talk about during this flight. Out in Montenegro was that last one that we took in the F-16. But it didn't really matter that there wasn't a lot to see because we were going really, really fast. But there's so much out here, we're really not going to have time to linger on any of it, so I'll just kind of tell you what it is we're looking at, give you a few quick facts if we have time. And anything that piques your interest, you can research a little bit more at your leisure. Alright, so let's just come over this way a little bit. I'm looking down at my GPS map there. A few quick notes about the city of Turin before we dive in. It has been a significant political, religious, cultural, and economic center for thousands of years. You probably noticed on the Google map that it's not down on the Italian peninsula. It's up on the European mainland, so this was a big overland trade route hub back in the day. And you're going to hear me mention the House of Savoy many, many times. The people that built this town and built a lot of the big castles and stuff out here were from the House of Savoy. And they made a lot of their money off those trade routes back in the day. Okay, so we're just kind of coming up on 2,000 feet. But if anyone needed to get up here by boat, that Po River that we saw on the map stretches all the way down to the Adriatic and spits out about 25 miles south of Venice. And back in Roman times, it was navigable all the way up here to Turin, and it kind of gets really skinny as it heads out that direction from town. But nowadays, if you're wanting to take a boat up the river, you can only get up to Cremona with a big boat anyway. That's about 100 miles east of here. And Turin was the first Italian capital from 1861 to 1865, after which it moved to Florence, and then finally to Rome in 1871. And today the city is home to roughly 850,000 people, and perhaps most well known for the location of the Shroud of Turin, and being the headquarters of car makers Fiat and Alfa Romeo. Okay, this first thing we're going to see is right down here. This is called the Stupangini Hunting Lodge, built during the 1730s for Victor Amadeus II, King of Sardinia. And calling it a lodge might be just a bit of an understatement. So this is the main part of the facility here, and they got a big garden over this way, and then all of this is also part of it over here. But this thing has a total of 137 rooms, 17 galleries, and spans nearly 335,000 feet under roof, which is massive. And I think this was probably more of a trophy house, based on what I was reading, than a place that people were living for any long durations. I think they were using it for royal parties and weddings and other fancy occasions. Look at these gardens down here. Looks incredible. We might have just one hard freeze right up here. This is a photogrammetry city, so we got a lot of data, but it's not too bad. A lot of the other European cities, along with not looking quite as good as this one, are also usually very data heavy, and throw the fact that we're in a helicopter on top of that, and usually have to turn the graphics way down. And there's that hard freeze. This should be the only one that we'll experience. Here's some of the factories out here. There were so many of them, and it was all in Italian on the Google map. I couldn't really tell what they were building at most of these. The ones that I could tell, I will tell you. But you can see all the roofs look great, look as they should. They got the discoloration, the little AC units or whatever's up there. This looks like it has a bunch of solar panels on that one. And another thing that looks really good out here, if you can see it down through our little quarter panel window down there, the roads look great. None of them are uneven or broken up. All the bridges going over them, as you can see, all look really good. Just a superb looking city. Alright, so here is the Po River that runs up this way, and it runs from this direction up through here. And this is a big power plant they got down here. So we're going to come down and hit the Po and then turn up this direction. And as we do that and start heading downward along the river, or I guess upward, it'll be going north in this part of it, we're going to see Moncalieri Castle. It was built in 1100 AD. But in the 1400s, it was turned into a pleasure palace by Yolanda of Valois, wife of Duke Amadeus IX, and saw continued use as a royal residence all the way up through 1921, when it started serving a dual role as a museum and home to an Italian police battalion. And we'll see it as soon as we turn along the river here. But look at all that down there. Look at this stuff here. This is what I always look for the detailing. The parking areas and where they have junk piled up. Look how detailed that is. Fantastic. And this is one of the spots, this castle, that if you don't have the add-on in, you won't even see it. It'll be completely flat. If you fly over it, you'll see what looks like a photograph smeared across the ground, but it looks terrible. And we're not even going to... Well, now it's behind that window. You'll see in just a second. We're not even going to fly over there, out there to it, because down around the base of the castle, it still looks pretty bad, but we will see it from a distance once we come along the river here. And we're getting a little high, so I'll go ahead and trim down. I'd like to stay closer to 2,000 feet, but we'll be fine from here. Alright, so here's the castle right out here, and you can tell it's a pretty big place. But again, if you go all the way out to it, you'll see down around the base it's not that great looking, so take this flight plan as we are, which will also be included along with the links for the add-ons in the video description, along with our bookmark file. So at the end when we look at little NavMap, if this is your first time here, we check out the satellite image when we're done. You'll see all these landmarks are bookmarked so that you don't have to try to figure out where they are if you're also using little NavMap. If you want to change the route, you'll be able to draw them out to all these bookmarks, because there are some spots over here on these mountains, including that little thing up there, I'll tell you about that in just a little bit, that we're not going to fly all the way out there. Alright, so here's that gray area I was showing you on the Google map. This appears to be a train line going this way, and everything between the train line and the river over here is really the historic district where most of the sites are. Look how detailed that is. Unbelievable. And look at those Alps. Boy, as long as you're not on top of them, they look fantastic. Looks really good. Okay, two buildings that we've got coming up here. This one here, this big square one, and then this funny looking thing over here, which is kind of like a quadruple arc. Those were built as part of the Italia 61 Expo, which was a celebration of 100 years of the unification of Italy. And this one is a big exhibition hall right now, and then this one has an ice skating rink in it, and I think they refurbished it around 2006 because they were using that for the 2006 Winter Olympics when they had them out here. And they started building both of those for the first time in 1959. Got them done pretty quick if it was done by 61. And I'm just now remembering that I forgot to see, that might be the tallest building in town, but I forgot to see what it was. It was so jammed in there with everything else. So whatever it is, it looks like that's probably the tallest building out here. There's the Po. Look at all this stuff down here. Incredible. And you're going to see a few spots that look kind of like this one here. There appears to be something underneath, and that might be a flat roundabout, but we'll see one right up here that is hollow. So there's something going on down there underneath it. There's where that ice skating rink is. But I don't know what it is. This is a big car factory run by Fiat. We'll fly back in over this direction because we're going to land at a helipad on top of this funny-looking building I'm going to show you in just a minute. Alright, see this right here? That's that thing with a hole in the middle of it. You can actually see down into it because there's shadows down at the bottom of it. So this thing right here is called the Lingato building, and I think this town is called Lingato. And that was built in 1923 and was the original Fiat factory. And what's kind of interesting about that is they would bring the raw materials in on the bottom floor, and then as they were building the cars, they would move up the floors, and when they were complete, they'd spit them out on the top. And this is a big test track up here. And this is the helipad we're going to land on right down here, which is going to pop into view once we get a little bit closer. We may be too far away for it to be rendering properly right now. There it is. So we're going to come in and try to land there. And this is a big automobile museum over here. And then this thing here is called the Puerto Nuevo train station. That was built in the 1800s, and it's the main train station for town. And I think that translates to New Gate. And it may be called that because this might have been the spot, if I was translating it correctly, which I probably wasn't, where there was a much older gate, because this city used to have big walls all the way around it. So I'm guessing that probably has something to do with why they called it the New Gate. Alright, over here to the right we're going to see another exhibition center which looks fantastic, and then a little bit downriver from that is the Valentino Castle that was built in the 1600s, also by the House of Savoy. And in the 1860s, it was taken over by the University of Turin, and now it houses their architecture faculty building. So there's the big convention center. And the castle right over here, look at this thing. And if we were closer, you would see this big courtyard they have out here. It looks just beautiful. It's very ornate. Alright, this really tall thing out here is really an iconic building for the city. And that's called the Mole Antonelliana, built in 1889. And it's named after the architect, whose name was Alessandro Antonelli. And he was building it originally to be a big synagogue, but he had a bit of a falling out with the local Jewish community. And so the city took it over, and now it is the tallest unreinforced brick building in the world. Okay, right down here is the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist, where the Shroud of Turin is housed. I'm going to hop outside the helicopter so we can see it a little easier. So this is the cathedral right here, and then this is the Royal Palace out there behind it. And you can see they got some beautiful gardens down there as well. And there's the Mole. This big white thing over here is part of the University of Turin campus, which I think encompasses all this area down here. And I'm going to come over this way just to show you one of two incredible cemeteries we're going to see on this trip. These guys do not fool around with their boneyards. They just look unbelievably cool. And it is so detailed. Look at this. You can see every little tombstone and mausoleum sticking up down there. Unbelievable. Look at that. I mean, you can see every single one of them. That is insane. Alright, this thing sitting on top of this hill over here is a big basilica, which is also one of the add-on POIs. And probably looks great, but we're not going to fly all the way over there to see it because we got to head up to the north. Look at this. They've got like patterns and stuff cut into the grass. Unbelievable. And if you want to go a little bit further down the river, I do have a bookmark on it. There's a nice looking little dam over here. It's not real big, and they got a little lock system running down the side of it. But when you get to the dam, it's got a bunch of rocks on the other side of it. It looks really, really cool too, if you want to check that out. Alright, so let's take our big loop up to the north here. So if you want to see the Shroud of Turin, they take it out roughly every 5 years, but it's not planned and usually not announced without much fanfare, and it's at the sole discretion of the Pope whenever it comes out. And I went on their website, and right on the main page of the website, you can get on a alert list, drop your email address on there, and get on the wait list for them. And they'll notify you when there is a planned unveiling, if you want to try to get out here and check it out. But I think that they said they only give you about 10 days notice. So you better be ready to buy an expensive plane ticket. Look at all these cars down here. This thing right here is an aerospace company. And I also bookmarked that because it looks like a little launch pad. It's not a launch pad, but they built it to look like that, which I thought was really cool. Check that thing out. Alright, we're getting a little bit off course here, so let's turn back this way. And I don't know what that is. They got a little helipad down there, but look, they got like a bullseye or something down there too. All kinds of cool eye candy out here. But they said they're thinking that the next time the Shroud's going to come out will be either 2025 or 2026. And if you've never seen pictures of it in real life, that is not the negative version of it. It doesn't look like all that much. You can really see whatever image is on there when you see the negative. This thing here is a big landfill that they've reclaimed, and now it looks like it's a big public park. And they got all kinds of little paths and stuff winding all over the top of it there. Look at these bridges down here. Just perfect. Everything out here is perfect. I've probably flown over this a dozen times now, and I could not spot a single thing that looked like it was out of whack, except for that double landmark that we're going to see, which is up on top of this mountain over here. Alright, this next big thing we're going to have right up here is the Juventus Stadium, also known as the Allianz Stadium. And man, those guys seem to have a huge stadium in all the major cities. I think they had a big one out in Sao Paulo, too, when we took that trip. But this thing was opened in 2011, and even though it looks massive, I would have thought it was like a 80,000 to 100,000 seater. Only holds about 41,000 people, they said. But they also have just to the northwest of it a little arena that's now closed down. They built that little arena in 1994. And they closed it the same year they opened the stadium, so I don't know what happened to that place. Well, look at that pile of junk down there. What is that, a rust factory? Incredible. You know I love rust. And that looks really rusty. Alright, so I'm just trying to come around here so we can get a good view of this stadium. But look at all these industrial buildings out here. All kinds of stuff. And boy, that backdrop with the Alps over there is just incredible. Alright, I want to come down some more because now we're over 3,000 feet. But we do need to get up to the top of that mountain, so maybe we won't have to climb so much. So when we get down here, you'll see the detailing on this thing is also just incredible. They have what look like, I don't know if they're solid structures or not, but see these points on each side of it? They kind of look like they're banners of some kind. And you can even see that there's some kind of artwork on them. Rusty warehouse. Love it. And there's that old theater. Or, well, it looks kind of like a theater. It's an arena. That thing only held about 10,000 people. And they probably weren't playing soccer in that thing. Alright, we're going to get a nice view out of the right side of the helicopter as we come around here. So I don't know what all this stuff surrounding it on the outside is. I mean, they could have doubled the size of this thing if they wanted to, because look at all this space they took up with grass or whatever that is out here. But look at these things right here. See those things going up on the side? They probably weren't playing soccer in that thing. And you can even see that there's some kind of artwork on them. Rusty warehouse. Love it. And there's that old theater. Or, well, it looks kind of like a theater. It's an arena. That thing only held about 10,000 people. And they probably weren't playing soccer in that thing. So I don't know what all this stuff surrounding it on the outside is. I mean, they could have doubled the size of this thing if they wanted to, because look at all this space they took up with grass or whatever that is out here. But look at these things right here. See those things going up on the side? beautiful. Absolutely perfect. And look at that. You can see every line painted on the parking lot for the parking spots. I wonder what that is. Looks like it goes underground a little bit. I don't know why they don't just tear that down. Make some more parking. Alright, so in just a moment we'll see another royal palace. This one is called the Regia di Venaria. And I should add that this is one of 14 massive houses built in this area by the House of Savoy. So I guess they really liked it out here. And like that first one we saw, this one was also intended to be a hunting lodge. It was built in the late 1600s but was abandoned 100 years later, eventually being used off and on for various military purposes until 1978, at which time they started renovating it in what would become the largest restoration project in all of European history. Worked on it for 29 years. They just opened it back up in 2007. And look at the gardens for this thing. Incredible. And there's the quote-unquote hunting lodge part of it. And if you're interested enough in this stuff and want to take a look at some of the website pictures of the insides of these places, unbelievable. Opulent is not adequate to describe it. Just the paintings and the tapestries and everything is gilded, of course. Just looks incredible. Let's hop outside. Wonder how much they pay to the groundskeepers at a place like that. Alright, so this next one's going to be kind of hard to spot. We've got another royal hunting lodge up here, and this one's called the Bizarria Castle. And I think Bizarria translates to bizarre. And I think there may be a town named that somewhere up here too. And it's kind of a bizarre looking little place if you can see it from the ground, get closer to it. We're going to be kind of high up in the air because we got to see something that's in these trees over here and I don't want to get too low. But it's not easy to spot. And the way you find it is, once we get over here, you'll see that this is a road stretching up this way. And we're going to follow it all the way up until it ends right about here. And that little piece of trees sticking out right there, it'll be tucked down in there. And that one was built by King Victor Emmanuel II around 1861, so it's fairly new compared to these other buildings. And it's also been abandoned for quite a while. But I read that they have started to try to do some restoration work on it. And a couple of Italian TV stations had been renting it out to make TV shows. Alright, I'm swinging out this way a little bit because I seem to remember that this little creek here looked really, really good too. Look at that. None of those weird faint lines on the side of it, not bending in any weird ways. Like everything else, looks amazing. Alright, so here's the road you need to follow up, at least with your eyes, if you're going to find this place. Everybody's hanging out down the pool down there. Look at that. All those little lawn chairs out there. That's the kind of detailing I want to see. Look at this thing down here. Amazing. Yeah, a lot of the European cities just don't look that great, even the photogrammetry ones. This one is nice and crisp and clean, and the performance isn't too bad. We had a little bit of stuttering, but we are in a helicopter. Okay, so again, this is not going to be easy to see. I'm going to swing out a little bit further just so we can have a wider angle to try to spot it. And we got a little breeze. We'll get some chop coming over these mountains too. We hit some of those thermals. Thermals. Not thermal. Alright, so there's the road going up there. And this thing out here I'm going to tell you about in just a second. At first I thought that was an unmarked runway in the sim because you can't see it as a runway anywhere. But that's another test track for Fiat. Alright, where are you, Hunting Lodge? There it is, right there. And if the sun was hitting a little bit better, it would be easier to spot it. But that's it, right down there. And if you check out some pictures of that from the ground, it's pretty cool looking too. So you'll see why I thought this thing was a runway initially, because they've even got some big X's painted on it, so I don't know if someone was thinking about using it for a runway or not, but they've got it all blocked off now. Well, not blocked off, but they got X's on it. And it probably hasn't been used in a while. I couldn't get much information about it, but you can see they've got trees growing up out of the middle of it. You can see those on the satellite map too. There's some of the X's that they painted on it. And this is pretty far away from where they were building all the cars, so I don't know why they put one way the heck out here. But they did. I was really excited when I first saw these wires stretching up here because I thought it might be another cable car pack, because that looks like a perfect spot for some cable cars. But they're just power lines. You can see the pylons over there. Okay, so we're going to do a little mountain climbing now to check out a landmark at the very top of Mount Musine, which is this second peak over here. And this thing is an inactive volcano that reaches up to around 3,700 feet. And we're getting some of that wind now, and it's gusting up to about 15 knots. And there is more lore surrounding this mountain than you can shake a stick at. Up at the very top, in what looks like a cone for the volcano, although it didn't look like a cone on the Google map, but it was right above it, so it may actually be a cone. It just doesn't look like it if you're directly above it. But inside of that thing at the very top is a cross which is said to commemorate Constantine's conversion to Christianity in the early 300s. I think that happened around 312 AD. But I don't know how accurate that is, because once I looked into the other claims on that particular site, pretty much everything they were saying was at least partially inaccurate. But I think it's about 15 feet tall, and this is the one that has a double landmark, so you'll see there's actually two crosses in there once we come over it. But there's some kind of carving on the bottom of it that's chiseled into it that may have been attributed to Constantine, so I don't know what the true history of that is. But one thing that I was able to confirm across multiple sites is that this mountain has been the location of numerous UFO sightings going all the way back to the 1970s, including an abduction. The story I was reading about that said that I guess 3 guys had gone hiking up here and saw a blinding flash of light, and one of the guys disappeared for a few hours. When they finally found him again, he said he'd been abducted and had a bunch of burns all over his legs, which may or may not have been an abduction, maybe got hit by lightning. But after they hauled the guy back down, all of them came down with conjunctivitis, which may or may not have been caused by hauling a guy with a bleeding leg down through the mountains and then rubbing their eyeballs. So when we get up here, you'll see it looks kind of bald up on the top, and that may be because of my volcano tree pack. It's supposed to remove the trees up at the top of volcanoes, because it looks pretty treed over in the Google map. But among the many other legends surrounding this location, my favorite is that there's an enchanted cave down there that is inhabited by an immortal magician who has been tasked with protecting the world's largest emerald from greedy people. Which I have to assume is pretty much anyone who ever laid their eyes on that thing, because who would just leave it there? But he also has a golden dragon, so watch out for that if you find the thing. And they got some stories involving dragons, fairies, gnomes, werewolves, witches, anything you can dream up. They've got it down here. And they said that water even runs uphill out here, defying gravity. So I'd probably have to check that out if I came out this direction. Alright, we're probably high enough now. So we'll bring the nose down a little bit, pick up our airspeed. Alright, it's going to be kind of hard to see these things. If I can get close enough, you will see that they have 2 crosses down in there, and it's the only spot that seems to have gotten mixed up with the add-ons. Look at these mountains. Just gorgeous. Looks really, really good. And I don't think the photogrammetry extends out here, but that's an off-colored building. Usually all the default stuff is just grayish with either brown or gray roofs. Alright, this is the base of the cross here, the crosses. And you'll see them sticking up right on top of each other, but they're at different angles, which makes it pretty obvious that there's 2 of them. See it there? And, well, you really can't see that there's 2 of them, but there are 2. Well, yeah, you can kind of see it, but you can tell there's a little cone in there, too. Alright, so back down we go now. And I'm going to drop our collective so we don't start overspeeding. What a view from up here. And as you can imagine, they say the view from the top of that mountain of Turin is pretty good as well. Alright, our last castle on this trip is going to be another palace of the House of Savoy, and this one is much older than the others, or parts of it are anyway. I think it was probably first built in the 900s, but didn't get its first historical mention until 1159. And I should also add that in case you're wondering why none of the rulers I've associated with the House of Savoy are named Savoy, Savoy is what they called the Alpine region between here and France way back in the day, in the middle of the first millennium. And the family that got all that started initially gained their power from land ownership up in the mountains. I guess they controlled a lot of the big trade routes up there, so I don't know if they were charging tolls or what. But I bet they got a few more big palaces up there too. As you probably figured out by this point, they eventually got really powerful and really rich. But back to this castle. It has been severely damaged by several wars over the centuries, and it was in various stages of disuse and renovation through most of them. With the last shellacking that it got was during World War II, after which it was abandoned until they started fixing it up again in 1979. And in 1984, it reopened again as Italy's first museum of modern art, for which it still functions today. And this one doesn't look quite right to me in the sim. I saw pictures of it from the ground. This is going to be it right over here. And there's a big building sticking out this way. Let's turn over here a little bit. Going back behind it, which just looks like a big rectangle. But in real life, it's got some turrets or something coming off the side. I think this is much newer, whatever this is over here. Oh, there it is. And you can see they got some trees growing out of it. I mean, the footprint of that's right, but that doesn't really look like what it looks like. So that may have been a bit of an afterthought. All right, so let's bring the nose back up some. That castle was also mentioned as the location of the first public display of the Shroud, but I couldn't find a date for that. And I did find another site that said the first historical mention of a public viewing was in 1389. But that was in Liry, France, so once again, be careful what you read on the internet. Or what you hear me say I read on the internet, for that matter. Don't go take any history exams after watching this channel. I do my best to try to get the facts right, but it is the internet. Look at all these factories out here. Okay, so a couple more things we'll see as we're coming in. Let me trim the nose up just a little bit more again. And we'll bring that collective back up so we don't get slowed down too much. Oh, we got a little tiling out here in the countryside, it looks like, unless those are just field lines, which they may be. So this thing right here is another power plant. This one's a trash-to-energy plant, and on the other side of this is going to be a cemetery that's even grander than that first one that we saw. This one's got a bunch of big square things that are recessed down into it. I don't know what those are. Maybe just like, where they put like the vaults along the walls, but they've got it kind of like an inverted pyramid going down on the ground. And I think I read that they opened this one in the 1970s, and you'll see they still got some land out here if you're trying to grab a good spot to plant yourself for the rest of eternity. And of course, we got some more beautiful factories. And this is the current Fiat plant out here. We'll take a nice look at that one. They got another test track on this side over here. But first, we got to check out this cemetery. And I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I did not know Fiat was an acronym before this trip. It stands for Fabbrica Italiana Automobili di Torino, or Italian Automobile Factory of Turin. And I also didn't realize that Alfa Romeo and Fiat are now owned by a conglomerate called Stellantis, who makes not only Fiat, but all the Chrysler vehicles, so Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and also Peugeot and Maserati. They're now the fourth largest car maker in the world. And when you look on the Google map, all this stuff says Stellantis on it. And I don't know what cars they're actually building out here. I think I read that in 2021 they converted this whole place to an electric vehicle factory. All right, what do we got down here? More factories and a beautiful looking train yard. All right, look at this cemetery here. Look at all these things that are going down into the ground. Is that crazy or what? And the landscape architecture, again, just incredible. This first one we're going to see here looks like they may still be building it out. Oh, they got like a little tunnel going down into it. But look, that looks like scaffolding on it, doesn't it? So that may not be complete yet. Look at that place. That is one heck of a cemetery. I can't think of any other cemeteries we've seen on any of our trips, and we've seen a lot of them that look quite like that. That is impressive. All right, so here's the test track for this place over here. Wraps that around there, does a little loop here, and then there's another loop over here. And this stadium over here is called the Grand Torino Olympic Stadium, originally built in 1930 and called the Municipal Stadium of Benito Mussolini. And as you can imagine, the locals didn't care for that name much, so they changed it shortly after the war. And they called it the Olympic Stadium after they used it again for the 2006 Winter Olympics. Look at these buildings. Look at this. You can see every little AC unit or ventilation unit or whatever that is up on the roofs there. Just flawless. Incredible. Look at all that stuff down there. Immaculate. And I think they have another big museum down in here too. I saw some pictures of the inside of that place. Alright, so let's try to hit this landing now. I have not yet been able to do it anything close to well. And last time, as I mentioned, I got stuck in a vortex ring and crashed, so we'll try to avoid that this time. I'm going to try to come in a little bit lower this time. so I can keep moving forward. It's when you start hovering and dropping that collector that you get caught up in that thing, which is the kiss of death. Alright, let's see if I turned the assist down too much here. Nice baseball park down there. Only bad thing about these helicopters with the big consoles is that they have a big console, which makes it kind of tough to land, as if it's not hard enough to land. So once we get down, we'll take a look at little NavMap. I'll show you some of the stuff on the outskirts that we didn't see. And if you have not yet joined our Discord server, the link for that will also be in the video description. That's a very cool place to hang out. I think we have about 45, 50 members in there now. Very manageable. There's that thing in the ground again. See that hole? I've got to know what that is. So come on in there, check that out. Talk about upcoming flights, gear reviews, plane reviews, sim news, all that stuff going on in there. And we do our group flights in there. When I take my test flights, I'll often turn on the audio chat. You guys can join me if you'd like to. Always better to not fly alone. And you can also enter a submission for our quarterly flight plan competition. If there's any places you want to see, I probably want to see them just as bad as you do. So let me know. All I need to know is the departure and arrival codes for the airports and a few spots to check out in between. And I'll draw out the flight plan, and we'll check it out. And then once a quarter, we vote as a sim community, and the winner will get a gift card to the sim vendor of your choice. This will be our second quarterly competition. Alright guys, I'm going to take my time with this because I'm not going to blow a whole nother video crashing on this, so you'll just have to be patient with me. Because I'm practicing just like everybody else. I'm so jealous of the guys that can just swoop in and land these things. Maybe someday. Coming nice and easy. There's that track. And now this track, they made it into a big park, so they got trees and bushes and stuff all over it. Looks really cool. We'll see those trees and stuff on the map at the end. Uh-oh, we're starting to shimmy. That's not good. Alright, let's just slow completely down. Come down nice and easy. Alright, try not to hit that walkway there. Alright, nice and easy. Uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. Dive out, dive out. Oh, 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 I saved it. Oh, that was close. Well, I'm not going to ruin another flight, guys. I'm just going to put this thing down over here in this train yard. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many times I've tried to put this thing down over there. I can't handle the humiliation of another one. We'll just come into a nice little spot over here in this flat area, which is probably close enough. But if you load up this flight plan, it will take you to that helipad, so you can check it out. It's just too small of a target. In some of the smaller copters I can do it, but I have the assist fully turned on for those things, which is why it's a little bit easier. You guys have no idea where I'm trying to land with this one, so I can just say I nailed it. And we got a UFO right there above us. See that? I don't see the enchanted magician anywhere, though. And his dragon. Alright, come on down. Come on down. Well, it makes it look easy if you don't have a target you're trying to hit. We got a lot of UFOs around here. Come on. Come on down. You can do it. Don't humiliate me now, Sim. Okay, we're down. Okay, so let's go ahead and shut her down, and we'll take a look at little NavMap real quick, and then we'll put a bow on it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just pull the throttle back. And in real life, you're supposed to let it wind down for a minute and kind of cool down, but it's really loud, as you can hear, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn it all the way off, so I don't have to yell while we're looking at little NavMap here. Alright, so you can see we got a lot of bookmarks here. So if you're new to the channel, all of these bookmarks, not just for here, but all over the world, all the spots that we've been to, the bookmark file that I include in the video descriptions will put all of these in there for you. So if you're going back and looking through our archives and you see a flight that you'd like to take, and some of these are for flights that we haven't even taken yet, that I'm just kind of trying to map out, but you'll be able to zoom into these and see all of the landmarks. So if you want to draw out your own route or upload the flight plan, you'll know where they are. It's a little bit easier to spot them when you have a bookmark. Okay, so here's where we left from, came over this way and saw the Stupid Genie Hunting Lodge. Look at how ridiculously huge that is. Well, I didn't see... Oh, they must be having a festival of some kind down there, maybe a hunting party, because look at all these tents. Those weren't in the sim. But those fields look spot on. Perfect. Really good. 335,000 square feet. That is insane. Oh, they got a little mound of some kind there. I wonder if that's a barrel mound. Doubt it. Okay, then we came over here to check out the big castle. Moncalieri. Look at that thing. Yeah, that just looks so bad before that add-on, so make sure you put that thing in there. And they weren't real big files either, so don't worry about that. So we cruised up along this way, tried to follow these train tracks as we were coming around. So here's the two buildings they built for the Italia 61 Expo. And there's where the ice skating rink is that they use for the Olympics. And then here is that circular thing. That might be a UFO landing hatch. I bet that's what that is. They need to get a little service done by the Fiat plant. And if we zoom in here, you can see all the trees that are on top of this now, where they made it into a big park. So I don't know when they were done zipping around the track, how they got those things off the roof. There must have been an elevator or something, but you'd think that'd be a bit of a production bottleneck. Wonder how that went down. Okay, there's the stadium that used to be Benito Mussolini Stadium. Now it's the Olympic Stadium. Here is one of their big conference centers, and then here is that castle with a really cool, and you can see this too, this big courtyard out here, which just looks so cool, and it's called Valentina Castle. What could be more awesome than that? So this is now where they have the architecture school for the university. And on this side of the river, if you feel like coming over here, I did put bookmarks on a couple neat-looking structures that are over here. That one there, and this one here also has some very nice gardens. And here's where that big basilica is. Check this thing out. Probably looks great in the sim. But we didn't make it over that far. And then the big hero of this town, the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist, where they keep the shroud right in there. And then here's the big palace over here. So if you show up and they don't have the shroud on display, you can go check out the palace. Gardens look amazing. And right down here, there's the university. There's that first cemetery we saw. That was just incredible. This area right here just looked phenomenal. You could see every single one of those things. Just great. But here's where that dam is if you want to feel like flying over here. And here's the locks going off to the side. But you can actually see all these little rocks and stuff down there. Just unbelievable. So cool. And then there's the Agrotech Space Park that looks like the launch pad. And they got a little go-kart track over there. Get a little twofer while you're out there. And then we came over here, there's the landfill. We saw that. That was really easy to see. And I thought it would have been taller up in the air when I saw it on the Google map, but the elevation was probably about right. Maybe I was just assuming it would be taller. And then here's the Juventus Stadium. Look at that place. You really can't tell what those are. They kind of look like they might be banners, but they're holding up. They must not be because they're holding up those big guy wires there. That looked incredible. Just incredible. And then there's the old place that they closed down, although they have a theater sign on it now. It looks a lot more like a theater. But they said it was an arena of some kind. Maybe they do theaters in the round. You can enjoy a nice dinner while you're out there. And then here's the other hunting lodge. Look at this place. I think this one takes the award for the best gardens on this trip. That is just insane. Can we see that big rusty thing? I don't remember exactly where that was. I want to find out what that is. I'm going to go back and look and see what that was because it was just nothing but rust, which was awesome. All right, here's the Bazzaria Castle, the tiny little Bazzaria Castle. That's it right there. Really hard to spot, but again, just follow that road all the way up through here, and that's where you'll see it. And here's the old Fiat test track. There's the X's, so don't try to land there. And you can see they got shrubs and stuff growing up out of the middle of it now. But that's big. That is a really big test track. That's probably bigger than the current one they have at the factory, which we'll see in just a minute here. Huge. And then we came over to the mysterious mountain, Musine. All right, so when you look at the top of this, to me, it doesn't look like there's a crater up here, but you could clearly see something that looked like a crater in the sim. And you can see it is treed over all the way up to the top. They got a little rocky ridge over here. But there's where there should be just one cross. But now they got two in there in the sim anyway, if you put those add-ons in. Came down this way and saw that other big castle. Let's zoom in on this thing. So, again, the footprint was probably right for that. If you see it from the ground, you can see they got all kinds of little features on the outside of it here that was just not modeled. It was just a big blocky-looking thing. And then this is also part of the Museum of Modern Art here. Both of these are now. And they got something on the sides of these, which I could see also from the side, but I don't see any trees growing out of the middle of it, which was also in the sim, so something happened with that one. All right, then we came down here and saw the trash-to-energy plant, which is just worth mentioning because it looked pretty cool. And then here it is. Look at this cemetery. Well, that does look like scaffolding there, doesn't it? But it's weird that it would be exactly like it was in the sim because usually the maps aren't dated the same. And it looks like there's some construction stuff over there, so maybe they're trying to put some roofs over this part here. So you could probably still get yourself a vault if you wanted to, if it's not done yet. But look at this place. I have not seen anything like that anywhere else in the world. That is very impressive. And then came on over here to the Fiat factory. Oh, they got their own power station too? Are you kidding me? Well, that makes sense, a place like this. Probably not running on batteries, even though they're building battery-powered cars there. And there's their big test track. Wonderful. And then there's the Benito Mussolini Stadium again. We came on in. So that's it. Let me show you one more thing real quick since I mentioned it. That Po River runs all the way up through here. You can kind of see it tracing through this way. It runs about 400 miles. This is the longest river in Italy. And then swings all the way out here till it dumps out in the Po River Delta out here. And there's Venice up there. So it's about 25 miles south of that. And here's the little town that you can navigate up to now if you're in a bigger boat. But back in the day in Roman times, you could get all the way up to Turin from there. And that's it. I think our next flight, if I don't do a lunch break flight in between, now that I've been on that cruise for a week, I just need a little time to decompress. I might put another lunch break in there, but we're going to hit Detroit. Orbix just came out with a scenery pack. I want to check that out. It's only $9, and I think they did the airport too, but it's already a photogrammetry city, so we'll probably have to check that out. I was wanting to fly Detroit anyway, and maybe we'll take an old vintage plane. That'd be pretty fun. That's it, guys. Had an absolute blast. City looked incredible. Learned all kinds of history. Saw some amazing things. I cannot wait to see y'all again in the skies. Later.